Thank you for joining us for our Maunday Thursday service. If you have not done so already, I invite you now to prepare the Lord's table on your coffee table or your kitchen table or your TV tray or wherever you are to make ready this moment to share together the Lord's Supper. We will hear tonight the story of the tables that shape our lives. I would say, two tables that have shaped my life in a very significant way. The first table would be the kitchen table in the home where I grew up. Around that table, we sat every night as a family to have supper together. That table taught me the power of faithfulness. My sister would set the table, I might make the sweet tea or whip up a little mayonnaise salad dressing, and my mom would have meat and potatoes and bread, pretty often homemade, and vegetables fresh from the garden if it was summer or frozen or canned during other seasons. And there, every night, we would gather to eat. The power of that table for the faithfulness of a family. Now, as I got older, we grew up a little bit more. There was a second table that became even more significant for that stage of our lives, and that was our dining room table. The dining room table was bigger. It could stretch. So as we got older and needed a little more elbow room, we more often sat at the dining room table. And then as my older brother got married and the five of us turned to a family of 6, and then they had their first son and there were 7, and then I married John and then there were 8, that dining room table just kept growing with us. It had, those kind of leaves that pop up at either end, and then you could pull it apart in the middle and put 2 more leaves in the center, so 8 could become 10, and 10 could even become 12 if you put a card table down here at the other end. That table became the centerpiece of our family life when we would go home again. Now, the family continued to grow, and so there was the infamous kids' table that made its appearance in the living room, and all the grandkids, mostly in their 20s now, laugh about that kids' table. But in those moments, those rare and memorable moments when we all end up at home together again, it is those tables that draw us. No matter the different paths that our lives have taken, that table calls us together to remember the faithfulness of being always together, day in and day out. Sometimes I mention out loud in my own home how much I'd really like to have a new dining room table. And the response of my girls is, "Mom, why? We have so many memories at that table." Tonight is the night we tell the story of this table. The memory of this table which guides and shapes us and around which Jesus sat with his disciples. From Mark chapter 14, beginning with verse 17. When it was evening, Jesus came with the 12. And when they had taken their places and were eating, Jesus said, "Truly I tell you, one of you will betray me, one who's eating with me." The disciples began to be distressed and say to him one after another, "Surely not I." And Jesus said to them, "It is one of the 12, one who's dipping bread into the same bowl with me. For the Son of Man goes out as it is written of him. But woe to the one by whom the Son of Man is betrayed. It would have been better for that one not to have been born." And while they were eating, Jesus took a loaf of bread, and after blessing it, he broke it and gave it to them and said, "Take, eat. This is my body." Then he took a cup, and after giving thanks, he gave it to them, and all of them drank from it. Jesus said to them, "This is my blood of the covenant, which is poured out for many. Truly I tell you, I will never again drink of the fruit of the vine until that day when I drink it new in the kingdom of heaven." They sat together at Passover, a season in which they remembered the delivery of the Israelites from the enslavement of Egypt. The night meant for them a significance of delivery, and surely the disciples must have felt that eagerness for delivery from the enslavement of Rome. And then Jesus says, "One of you will betray me." What a hard thing to hear at the family dinner table, that someone who will use that same spoon to dip the mashed potatoes, the same spoon that you use and that gets passed around the table, one of those will be the one to betray Jesus. It becomes a meal to remember in a way I'm sure they could not possibly have imagined. I would think that they wondered why Jesus wouldn't stop it. If Jesus knew, why would he not stop the betrayal that was about to happen? But this is the truth, that the power of the kingdom of God does not work in the same way as the power that we choose to yield. At this meal to remember, this meal that shapes our story, shaped the early church's story. When they were trying to work through what it meant that Jesus had come, when they were trying to understand who Jesus was and what Jesus had done for them, this is the story they went back to. Not a sermon, not a piece of doctrine that they were trying to work out. They went back to this story where Jesus gave them something to do together. Eat this bread and drink this cup. Eat this bread and drink this cup. Something new is happening in our lives too. And we have this sense of a need for deliverance. But yet, what it has created for us is something maybe we've never experienced before. You are setting the Lord's table in your home, on your coffee table or on your kitchen table or somewhere in your living room. You are creating the Lord's table and space in your home to remember what Jesus has done, perhaps like you've never done before. And it is this table that calls to us from here in the sanctuary and from that place in your home with this question: how does this table shape your life? may this broken bread enter into our bodies as though it were Jesus himself. Let us take Jesus in a way that shapes us and changes us, forms us and transforms us. Amen. God bless this cup, that which holds the life of Christ. As we drink it, may it wash through us. May it nourish us. May it bring us into the place where we are willing for transformation to happen. Amen. Tomorrow is a dark day, a day of loss, the day the hopes and the dreams of the disciples will be smashed in a way that they never expected. A day in which they realize things will never be the same again. Hold on to that feeling. Let it wash over you. Connect it to the world around you here and now. This here and now, when we know very well what it's like to have our world turned upside down. And listen and know God. way of the cross draws near, the purpose of God is upon us to reveal the truth, that power is not to be found in striving and in violence. Power is to be found in vulnerability and love and letting go. As we enter the darkness of the cross, we are invited to let go of all that holds us, that binds us. Only when we learn the darkness of sacrifice and letting go will we be able to fully understand the power of the resurrection to bring new life. Amen.